Magandang gabi po sa inyo, Senator Enrile. Salamat po sa inyong pagdalo.
Magandang gabi po sa inyo rin.
Alam niyo na pag-uusapan po ngayon, nagiging controversial po itong martial law at kung papaano ngayon ito tinatanggap, lalo na ng mga kabataan, no? Dahil nga po sa pagtakbo ni Senator Bongbong Marcos. Nagiging issue ngayon, meron pang sinasabing revisionist daw na version, no? Itong nagsasabi na okay naman ang martial law. You were there during the Marcos presidency.
I was in the government since 1966.
Kaya nga po, ano po ang inyong personal assessment of the presidency of Ferdinand Marcos even before he declared martial law in 1972?
Well, actually, everything that we are enjoying today is a product of the Marcos years. Even the infrastructure plans that are being implemented, those were thought about in those years. We have very good secretaries of public works that came about, like David Consoni, Secretary Hipolito, and several others. And they planned the road arteries of the country early on. And some of these are being implemented by all the administrations. Hindi naintindihan ng tao kung bakit nagkaganon eh. Dahil kung hindi nangyari yun, baka ngayon hindi tayo demokrasya eh.
Okay, bago po mag-martial law, alam niyo marami pong nagsasabi na kaya daw siya nag-declare ng martial law, and these were the lines of Senator Bongbong Marcos in the previous VP debate, no? Ay dahil daw grabe na raw ang communist insurgency, grabe na raw ang rebellion sa Mindanao, yung mga Muslim. Pero hindi po ba na ang lahat ng ito, sasabihin naman po ng kabilang panig, ay nangyari din ang lahat ng dumami ang mga insurgents at dumami ang mga Mindanao rebels because of the Jabida Massacre, etc. Noong panahon din ni Marcos, bago mag-martial law. In other words, did not he himself foment this kind of rebellion that eventually led him to...
Dalawang segment yung administrasyon ni Marcos. Una, from 1965 all the way to September of 1972. There's no martial law during that period.
Yes.
We were able to push the insurgency from Central Luzon all the way to Isabela, and we scattered them. Then at that point, in 1968, the New People's Army was organized by supposedly Commander Dante, but there were politicians behind it. And we knew this. These are matters of intelligence record in the government. And later on, this grew up very fast. Because of the situation in the country, this period, in terms of Philippine history, must be related to the global system. At that point, the problem of Cold War was starting to rise. Mm-hmm. This was just after the war, no? And they were funded by a foreign power. And the rise was very rapid. At the same time, a Muslim problem was going on in Mindanao. Was a building. There was an independence movement going on. What was our military force at that point? Did anybody ever ask this question?
What was our military force?
We had only 48,000.
Why did we not build it up even before the problem actually arose?
We are fighting in two fronts. The Constabulary was fighting the insurgents in Luzon, and the army, which was very small at that point, was fighting the Muslims in Mindanao. And then the Supreme Court, at that time, a Supreme Court that was not under martial law yet, issued declared in a decision that there is a rising insurgent rebellion in the country. They recognize it judicially.
So you agree with the decision to proclaim martial law? Was that something saan nanggaling ang desisyon? Nagtawag ho ba siya?
It was well studied. Okay, we asked the Department of Justice to do a very thorough study of the powers of the President under the Commander-in-Chief provision. Pinag-aralan namin yun. Ngayon, ang mga kasama ko na nag-aral noon, 2 magna cum laude sa UP. Si Mini Gonzaga, Minerva Gonzaga, ang naging Justice of the Supreme Court, at saka si Efren Plana. Parehong magna cum laude yun. Ngayon, we prepared a book covering the entire gamut of the powers of the President of the Philippines under a martial law condition. We gave it to President Marcos. The President Marcos called his cabinet and discussed the matter. And then he presented it to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, both the Constabulary and the Army. And we all agreed that it was a necessity for the country in order to survive.
Bakit ho later po, parang nag-backtrack po kayo at inamin nyo po na kayo po ay nagkaroon ng fake ambush para nga raw i-justify martial law? This was just
I did
before.
not do a fake ambush. It was a staged ambush by some people, but
Yeah, but you did admit that was used to justify.
Martial law was already in the country at that point. There was no need for me to do any ambush. For what? I have already issued the orders to the J staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
Okay. So, pero sir, hindi nyo naman po hindi natanggi.
Alam mo, yan ang ginagawa nila pang lalabo ng kasaysayan ng bansa. But they should assess the basis of the situation.
Pero hindi naman ho maikakaila na kayo po ay instrumental sa pagpapatalsik sa kay Marcos.
Well, ibang issue yun eh.
So, paano nyo, how do you reconcile your support of his policies, particularly in martial law and your... Yes.
I did not do these things for my personal gain. I was just helping to see to it that the country will survive. And probably, in the future, pag wala nang mga masyadong emotion at mga political agendas ng mga tao at susuriin ng mga manunulat natin sa kasaysayan ng ating bansa ang mga pangyayari sa buhay ng ating bansa, ay maintindihan nila kung ano at bakit ginawa ni Marcos yung ginawa niya. At ano kaya ang resulta kung hindi kami gumalaw. Until now, they never discussed the proclamation or the contents of the proclamation or to deny the factual allegations of the proclamation.
Marami yung nagsasabi nga ho na nung panahon daw ng martial law, actually, umayos daw po ang bayan. Karoon daw ng disiplina, umunlad daw ang ekonomiya.
Pero we were buffeted by events that were beyond our control. Una, yung gasoline, yung oil crisis. Di ba? Nagkaroon ng oil crisis, all of a sudden, 1973, we went through a rationing system. O siguro, hindi pa kayo buhay nun eh. We were having rations.
Yes.
In those days, but then after that, umunlad ang Pilipinas. Then, series of events, there was an international controversy between the United States and the Soviet Union, and America was also having a problem building its forces and alliances. No? But this is too much to cover.
So the usual plaints that are yung mga madalas pong binibring up against martial law, syempre po ay number one po yung human rights abuses.
Well, why don't they file cases? If there are human rights abuses, why did they file their case in America instead of here?
At napatunayan na nga po, as a matter of fact, meron na nga pong
We were already in post-EDSA 1 revolution. They could have filed it here if they believed that what Marcos did was wrong or illegal or unconstitutional. In fact, that is the basic problem of the present Constitution. They removed that power of government which will make it survive in case of a real internal crisis.
You mean the power to declare martial law?
Yes. Every state in America has that power. Not the federal government, because the federal government does not deal with local issues.
You were also Defense Secretary.
I was from
Yes. At the time that all
February
these...
10, 1970.
Yes, sir. At the time that many of these human rights abuses allegedly took place, ano po ang inyong personal na pananaw sa mga akusasyong ito na
We
napakarami
acted
pong
on all the complaints. I used to receive all the relatives and parents of the people who were incarcerated, including the wife of President of Ninoy Aquino. I have her letters in my possession thanking me for what I did for them.
Do you agree that these were abuses?
Yes, there were. You cannot, no matter where you establish a norm like that, there are always abuses. You cannot control all the persons involved, you know. They have different attitudes, different characters, different thinking.
Hindi ho ba dapat ngang pinanagutan ng rehimeng Marcos yon at hindi ho kaya
pananagutan din nila yung kanilang ginawa na bubogin nila ang gobyerno ng Pilipinas. Di ba? What would you do if there is a rebellion? You should see what they do in other countries. At least here, we use the law.